A training camp standout for the Bengals has underwhelmed so far during the preseason, and in this video, I'll explain if the Bengals should make any changes with him going forward. Hi again, Bengals fans. John Sheeran of A to Z Sports Cincinnati here, and considering the fact that this Cincinnati Bengals rookie class is going to be so important for the upcoming season, I think it's fair to examine their progress in totality heading into the final preseason game against the Indianapolis Colts, because they may not be needed as much, or they may be too important to play a significant amount in that game. Starting with the positive is very easy. Third-round pick Dylan Fairchild at left guard right now looks like a complete and total success. Now, obviously, it's just 2 preseason games, but the moment does not look too big for him. He looks like he can stand up to power. He's got the quickness coming in and out of his stance. Everything has looked completely solid with him on film so far, and obviously, it's going to be interesting to see if it carries over into the regular season, but the Bengals have to be feeling good about their starting left guard heading into week 1. First-round pick Stewart is also probably more on the positive side than the negative side. He's getting reps with the starters due to injuries with Myles Murphy and Trey Hendrickson not being out there. The production hasn't necessarily been there, but right now he's getting a lot more exposure, and that was definitely needed after he missed the entire offseason. And I didn't think that Jalen Rivers looked terrible by any means in his first exposure at right guard against the Commanders when he was in there for Lucas Patrick, but obviously there's a lot of work to be done with him, and I don't expect him to be a starter there anyways. And then you had 6th-round pick Taj Brooks, who averaged a little bit over 4 yards per carry against the Commanders. He had a couple of catches as well. I think he's pretty much locked in for the RB3 role. And now this leads us to the 2 linebackers of the draft class. 2nd-round pick Demetrius Knight Jr. and 4th-round pick Barrett Carter. I think one of the biggest surprises between training camp and the preseason is Demetrius Knight. I think his film has been pretty troubling to say the least, and he doesn't quite look ready to be a starter on an NFL defense yet. He's getting washed out of plays, he's not executing his run fits, he's not showing physicality at the point of attack, he's just not looking like that player that we saw in the early days of training camp. And this is even more surprising considering the fact that Knight has gotten all the first team reps throughout this entire offseason, even when Jermaine Pratt was still here. Meanwhile, you have Barrett Carter, who's a little bit below him on the depth chart, and he does look like he belongs. He looks like he's playing fast and free. He had an interception against the Commanders. He's just playing good football right now. And I don't know if that impacts the plan with Knight and Carter. I think Carter was already getting exposure with the first team in training camp along with Oren Burks. I think there's a plan for all the top 4 linebackers on this defense. I think if anything were to change, you might see a little bit more of Oren Burks and maybe a little bit more inclusion of the 3 linebacker sets with Burks on the field along with Knight, simply because Burks is a veteran, he's played in big games, and he also looks pretty good so far as well. But this is also a good time to note that Knight only had 2 years of starting experience at the college level, and only one of them was at a Power 4 school in South Carolina. Meanwhile, Barrett Carter was a 5-star recruit for Clemson. He started for multiple years. He was probably underdrafted in the 4th round as well. And he's definitely played well enough to have a meaningful role within this defense, especially when they need all of the capable athletes that they can get. So while Knight has definitely not impressed as much as we all would have expected him to, I don't foresee any radical changes here between now and week 1, but it is something to monitor as the regular season unfolds, and if Knight continues to underwhelm relative to Burks and Carter, then maybe you will see some significant changes as the weeks go on. I would expect to see both Knight and Carter out there on Saturday against the Colts, while the rest of the 2nd and 3rd stringers fight for their roster lives.